maybe we can give a little intro on like why software itself should matter to people, maybe even people who aren't traditionally software people. Maybe that'd be a good intro for people so that they're, not bored.
Yeah. Why is it relevant, and what's the impact on your life if you don't care about software at all?
Yeah. Well, go ahead.
This could go very far away from the intended topics, but I mean, okay, so long term, I think that companies are, there's been a market for attention ever since there was advertising, right? Mm-hmm. But the market for like companies trying to get people's attention has become more of a science. They've gotten very, very good at it. Mm-hmm. We have a lot more data for companies to, use to manipulate you and make you want things, make you want to buy things. I mean, that's essentially the incentive of every company is, try to get your attention and then try to get your money, right? That's what they do.
It's a little cynical, but yeah.
Well, sure. I mean, those are the ones that continue to exist, right? The ones that make money.
Yeah, they captured their market.
Yes, yeah. And so I think that computers and slowly machine learning, different techniques are giving us models that allow companies to manipulate human behavior very effectively. And it doesn't matter if a company knows nothing about you, you're still a human and you can still be manipulated in many of the same ways. So it almost doesn't even matter. Privacy almost isn't even a factor because like they get, there's examples of, you can analyze 10 of a person's Facebook statuses and see if they're like a smoker, just these absurd things you can know just from very small amounts of data. Mm-hmm. So if you want to prevent yourself from just being manipulated by a lot of forces that are outside of your control, I would say it's good to be aware of it.
Yeah.
That I think is probably the biggest concern for someone who doesn't care about software at all, why you should care about software.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's the privacy angle, right? I think a lot more people are, I think, first of all, there's that stage of awareness that, people generally need to know. Like back in the 80s or 90s, maybe it was acceptable to not really understand that computers were tracking you. But nowadays, especially with those super annoying cookie pop-up things that you have to accept on every single website, you
Which
have to
solved
have
the problem of privacy forever.
Right,
Thanks.
privacy solved.
Thanks European Union or whatever.
It. Yeah. So yeah, like you need to at the very least be aware, that wherever you go is tracked at least a little bit. It's not that, you go visit a website and they instantly know your personal details, but understanding that you kind of get tracked by these large companies that have even a slight presence on those sites, kind of like a Trojan horse, right? So if you have a Facebook login button on your website, Facebook knows that your user has visited your website, and now they've managed to track that, and they've added that to their dossier about you. So now Facebook has a little extra data on your search history, which is why you get these magic, sort of these scary moments, right? Of, okay, well, I was just, searching about, cancer, and now Facebook is advertising cancer hospitals to me. Okay, great. Mm-hmm. So it's not always so bad when a company has access to that, because they don't necessarily have direct power over you. But the other scarier part of the privacy argument, I think, also is that, there's security leaks. Facebook had the big Cambridge Analytica one a while ago. I can't remember what year that was. 2016 maybe? I don't know. It's a couple years back. and people realized, oh geez, Facebook's tracking so much about us.
Yeah.
And those leaks happen all the time. There's this website called Have I Been Pwned? PWNED. That basically informs you every time your email address gets like pulled up, I guess, in a hack of some kind. Like it got lost, like the database that contained your email. Now they have your password.
Yeah.
And it's like, all right.
I think I visited one of those sites before. I don't remember what the result was. I mean, I thought
Everyone's on there.
Yeah.
Doesn't
I mean,
matter.
yeah.
If you've been on the internet for more than a year or two, you've been hacked at least once.
I mean, I thought that the craziest thing about Cambridge Analytica was not simply the amount of data that was being tracked, but the what they were able to accomplish with that data, right? I mean, I'm trying to remember exactly what they did, but I mean, I thought that's where some of those things about like just analyzing a couple of public things on your Facebook profile, they could like determine your sexual orientation, like what things you're interested in, all sorts of things. I mean, yeah, I mean that's the thing I care. It's almost talking about privacy is just, it's not silly, but it's really not the relevant point, I think, right?
It's control, right?
It's control, yeah. I mean, and you just have to think about what are they going to do? What power do they have? And if I want to be in control of my life, what landscape am I really navigating in? You know? And another one, just to bring it up, is like Target. All they were doing is just tracking, I think, purchases people were making at their stores, and then sending coupons based off of those purchases. And then they ran some algorithms to pick up some patterns and sent that 15-year-old girl a bunch of coupons about pregnancy, or like cribs, and and the dad was furious, and a week later like called them and was like, yeah, she is pregnant. So, and that's just like
your stuff.
That's not like 1984 stuff. Like Target always had the ability to know the things you purchased from their store, right? But now we have tools to analyze that and extrapolate an amazing amount about your life and stuff. So I don't know. I think the privacy argument is just, I don't know. It's pointless. What do you think?
Well, there's the conspiracy theorist part of this that I can't remember the dude's name, but he wrote a book about it, of basically how they took the Cambridge Analytica data, I think, or maybe it was at Cambridge Analytica, and what they were trying to do is actually sort of control the mob, so to speak. Like,
right.
They would notice patterns, like if someone or some particular topic went viral, you can do sentiment analysis on it, which is basically like, how do you feel, or how does this tweet feel? How does this Facebook post, like how emotionally charged is it? Is it angry? Is it sad?
Right.
Etc.
Grammarly has that, This email sounds stern or something. Yeah.
You sound like a real jerk. And that's good for that kind of stuff. But you can take that and you can sort of analyze en masse. And I think this is where people forget how powerful computers are nowadays. Like you can get basically a horde of like really fast computers to analyze literally every tweet that's happening in real time. Granted, you'd have to use a lot of processing power to do that, but you can filter it down so that it's reasonable enough that you could do it. And with statistics, you don't even have to do everything. You can get an idea just by following a particularly active tag, hashtag on Twitter. So I think what they were doing is they were trying to find patterns of, if something was mentioned, how would people respond? And of course, what they find is that humans are very predictable, even though we all think we aren't. We all are in our own ways. There's a limited number of actions that you can take to respond to something. Someone like you might be more, stoic about something, or at least not. You might not externalize it on social media, but other people will take like the fake news articles and such, and they'll like pass them around and get mad, and then you see their series of follow-up posts, and you see essentially that software, due to like this tracking, is influencing behavior. And that's where you get to that, I think, that troublesome part that you brought into this conversation in the first place, is that it's the software at the hands of people that is literally controlling masses.
Are you saying when there's kind of a secondary feedback loop sort of thing going on? Or what do you mean exactly, the software? Like people using the software, or the software itself changing behavior? So the software itself, of course, is just a tool being used by people to do something with it. But you wouldn't have been able to figure this stuff out without software because of how fast it is. But the software is just analyzing behavior. If you do this, how do crowds of people respond in general? If I post this fake news article 1,000 times, across a bunch of different social media sites against influencer accounts, will it become real news? Right.
And how long does it take? And how long until people start, stocking up on toilet paper and, canned vegetables to survive the, upcoming plague that they think is coming?
Yeah. And I heard of like one guy who he said, like, I think it was just him, like he knew what he could post to get it to be like trending on Twitter. Just, it's it's kind of terrifying. I mean, it's like the fitness of an idea, right? You talk about memes and
my favorite topic.
Yeah, and how they reproduce, and it can be really disheartening thinking about how like the truth of an idea is totally separate from its fitness in terms of how successfully it can replicate and spread. And I don't know, I mean, there's not a lot of hope in that idea. So like, hopefully there's some sense in which like the truth and the fitness of ideas are attached, and we can actually work some system so that true good things are trending on Twitter, without it just being like curated by some person at the company, because that's a whole other issue. Anyways,
I can be even more cynical than you on that one if you'd like.
Go for it, yeah.
So the cynical view there is actually that if you're talking about evolutionary fitness for ideas of like memes, essentially, like, Dawkins proposes, the other corollary, I guess, for like human evolution is that our brains are designed to recognize danger, right? So we're highly attuned to dangerous things, which is why these memes or these fake news things work so well against us, because they tune in directly to our subconscious fears, or sort of like this perception that my tribe is being attacked, for example. Like you see this all the time in the political news, right? Like if you feel like your personal beliefs, which you've like assigned a whole lot of your identity to, are like under attack by some news article, like you're going to respond to that. Like your brain is designed to take that into account. It cannot ignore it. It has to react.
Yeah, you feel compelled to. And yeah, like the proof is in the pudding. The list of things that end up bubbling to the top all fit the same. They all fit the bill of like, well, this idea has hacked people's brains. This idea has hacked people's brains. You know. Yeah, and so I don't totally understand, or like I don't know how to think about the memosphere, right? Like, you can kind of think of the biosphere as one plane, you know, and biological life kind of exists within the biosphere, and there's certain things that are selected for, you know, like 10 fingers and all that sort of stuff, like the things that define the characteristics of the thing, of the stuff that survives in the biosphere. It's like a certain set of rules. But then the memosphere is like built on top of that inside people's minds. And it's like a different landscape. But it's also like dependent on what's good for us as humans in a way. Like it's not completely isolated from that. You know, there's some truth to the idea that people don't have ideas have people. Like there's some truth to that. But it's like, well, like it's our brains, and they were, you know, they are the way they are for a reason, you know, to help us succeed. So I don't know. I'm not completely hopeless about the situation, you know, but it's a tough problem.